Hello and welcome to the Dumb Shits Guide for Applied Energistics 2, a Minecraft mod focused around storage and auto-crafting. Today I'll be showing you the basics of how the mod works. Contrary to popular belief, it is not as complex as people make it out to me. In fact, it is very simple, and I'll be taking you through step by step on how to do it. To start off, we have what is the basic necessities for a system. To start off with, you need a power source. In this case, I'm using the example Creative Energy Cube. However, you can use power sources from any mod. Most cables will work. What you're going to need primarily is this energy acceptor. This converts energy from other mods. In this case, I believe mechanism is FE into, I believe, AE, which is what Applied Energistics uses. And that's what this energy acceptor does, is it converts it into something that this mod can use. Secondarily, you have two options. The first is an ME drive. What an ME drive is digital storage. Inside it, you can have storage cells. These can hold up to 63 different types of items, and you can access them through this crafting terminal here. So for example, if we take some oak logs, place them in, now they are stored inside of this drive. So whenever I need to get oak logs out, I can open it up and it's right there. Or if you have a lot of items, you can search them up and they'll appear in your ME system. In this version of Minecraft on the ATM9, your search is automatically synced to the JEI. So that's the basics of the bare minimum for a system. Assuming you don't have the resources for an ME drive, the alternative option is have your energy acceptor, your terminal. I'd recommend going with a crafting terminal. There's not very much use for a normal ME terminal. A power source, and then what you can do, these are called storage buses. When a storage bus is attached to a container, that container becomes part of the storage. So this netherite barrel is now the same as this ME drive. So, for example, if I take that 64 oak logs, place them in the barrel, and then open it up, it's inside our system, so it reads this as part of our system. Now, a little bit more complex, how to get items into your system. So, the first things first, when I start talking about this energy cell, this is basically a buffer of energy storage. This fills up with energy over time, and then say this gets disconnected, there's still energy in here that can be used to power the system. I'm going to replace that cable now because we've got a little bit more to work with here. Now, so we also have the ME interface. What an interface does is it allows you to import blocks into your ME system. So for example, I've got this mechanism logistical cable going into the interface and this chest over here. This chest is not a part of our network. However, if I put items in the chest, it goes into the interface, into the drive, into the storage. So I'll take that out. I'll show you again. It's gone in there. Now this is basically the bare minimum you need to get set up. There are, however, limitations to the system. For this system, since we don't have a controller, we're limited to 8 channels. Each of these devices is one channel. So this is a channel, this is a channel, this is a channel, and this is a channel. And this is a channel as well, for a total of 8 that we can have on this network. Now, before we go in any further, I'll explain how channels work, because a lot of people don't seem to understand them very well. It's actually very simple. So we'll start off with the different types of cables. First off, we have our glass cable. These have one channel on them, only one. There's only one channel from here to there. So next let's talk about the covered cables. The covered cable, the default one, carries 8 channels, and the dense one carries 32 channels. The 32 channels can be split off into 8 channels, so you can have your main network go into here, through here, and into here. However, I don't recommend the covered cables because it's harder to see what you're doing. What makes these good, the smart cables, is that on here will be displayed lines for each channel that's being used. So you can see on this one, for example, if you look at the tooltip at the top, then you can't actually see how many channels are being used on this cable, so you sort of just have to guess. So if you had like 31 devices on this channel, then you wouldn't know because it doesn't display it. However, the smart cables do, and it also has little lines that show up that tells you how many channels are on that one. Now let's explain a little bit further how cables work. So there's colored cables and then there's flux cables. Flux cables can connect to any other cable, whereas colored cables will only connect to flux cables and not any other cable of the same color. However, if I, for example, had a green smart cable, that could connect to this one. Also importantly here, you will have noticed the ME controller. This is the most important part of your ME system because this is what allows you to go from something like this to something like this over here. So basically how it works is each side of the controller carries 32 channels. As you can see, I've got 3 sides covered with cables right now, so each of these cables can carry 32 channels. The maximum size limit of an ME controller is 7 by 7 blocks. However, there are some limitations. For example, you can't go outside the boundaries of the 7 by 7. Also, additionally, at least 2 blocks must be exposed to air and can't be connected to other ME controllers. So for example, like I just did there, this one has 5 exposed sides. I add 1, 2, 3, and then 4, and it shuts the whole thing off. It won't work. So that means that what I can't do is I can't go like this, for example, and make it something like that. I can't just make a solid cube because it needs something for the devices to connect to, because it's all based on how many cables are connected to each of these sides. And like I said before, each side carries 32 channels. Now the 2 ways you can separate your cables are either spacing them out by 1 block, then they will not connect to each other, or alternatively you can use cable anchors. So for example, if I have all these connected together, but I don't want everything jumping between the channels, I can place cable anchors like so, and that separates them and lets you have different devices on each cable. Next up, we have the different portions of autocrafting. To start off with, we have our molecular assemblers and pattern providers. The pattern provider accepts patterns that you can encode in a terminal, which we'll get to in a minute. When you go to AutoCraft, it provides those patterns to these molecular assemblers, which are basically automatic crafting tables. And as you can see, molecular assemblers do not take up a channel. There's only 1 channel per molecular assembler. So you can see only 1 channel is being used on this cable. Here we have our terminals. You don't really need to worry about an ME terminal. It only lets you insert and remove items. The crafting terminal lets you craft items. For example, I pull out those 2 items, some sticks, or if I wanted to, I could go and sync it up to JEI. So we'll go pickaxe, iron pickaxe, and if we click plus, it'll automatically move the items into there. But what's to say I want to craft more than that? What we can do is go to our pattern encoding terminal, and we'll take, for example, our 6 from before. So we'll add that pattern here, and then we'll encode it. Now there's a few different types of patterns. Mostly what you're going to be using is the crafting patterns and the processing patterns. The crafting patterns are for the molecular assemblers. The programming patterns we'll get to in a second. So for example, we have this pattern now. So 4 sticks out of 2 oak planks. Now what we're going to do is we're going to place this in here. And then we'll grab some more oak planks. And now you see we have a recipe in here. Now, so say I already have items in here, but I still want to craft more sticks. I can sort by craftable. So that way it removes all the stored items and just shows the craftable ones. I'll take those sticks out. So for example, I want to craft 40 sticks. I'll need 20 wood, 20 planks, and they will be automatically crafted in here. But you need more than just this for automatic crafting. What you're also going to need is a crafting CPU. You don't have to worry about the crafting monitor. I like it for aesthetic. It shows what's being crafted on which tower at a time. What you will need, however, is a crafting co-processing unit and crafting storage. The way these are built, they're a multi-block structure. So for example, if it's in a shape that it doesn't like, it won't work. So if I go like this, it won't work. However, as long as I keep it in a mostly rectangular or square fashion, then it will work perfectly fine. And Applied Energistics is very good at figuring out exactly when to use these. So for example, these have a lot of crafting storage in them. If I wanted to craft a long and complex recipe, then Applied Energistics would automatically choose the crafting CPU that you have with the most storage available. As you can see as well, multiple devices in Applied Energistics can be connected to each other and still connected to a channel. So for example, in other mods, if you placed 2 items on top of each other, they would not both be connected to an ME system. However, since these are all 3 of these drives are from Applied Energistics, all 3, since they're connected together, connect at the bottom to this one cable. So you don't have to worry about running a cable all the way down the back for all 3. All 3 will just connect to that and go straight through there. Here's an example of that in a bit more scale. So this is a molecular assembler tower that I've made. As you can see, this device is online. So there's 8 channels being used. As you can see here, 8 channels. So we can fill all of these up with patterns and they will use the molecular assemblers to craft them. But you may be saying, I can't access the pattern providers to put the patterns in them. What you can do is, let's take our stick example from earlier. So we'll grab this one out. We'll actually disconnect this one from our network for the sake of the example. Now we're going to go to our pattern access terminal. And as you can see, all of our 8 pattern providers over there are right here. So we merely place it in there and it still works. As you can see, there's a little plus sign. That means it works. So that's the basics of auto crafting with just the molecular assemblers. Now say we want to do something with a furnace. That's where the pattern provider is extra useful. So we have a pattern provider connected to this furnace, and then we have a logistical cable from Mechanism running out the front and back. So for example, I'm going to put some coal in here real quick. All right, let's take this furnace for example. It's hooked up to a pattern provider, as seen here. Now we're going to go and code a recipe for this one. So what we're going to do is we want to make iron ingots. So how do we craft iron ingots? With raw iron in a furnace. So what we're going to do is grab a stack of raw iron, and we're going to encode a pattern. So we're going to click on this one, encode the pattern, place that, and then you can choose what the outputs are. So you can make it work with other mods. For example, if it's a byproduct of the crafting recipe, or if it creates multiple outcomes, or you want to get around some of the limitations of like the what JEI says, you can choose what the output will be, so that when you want to craft that output, it will use that item. I'll explain why that's important here in a second. For this example, we're going to go 1 iron ingot from 1 raw iron. We're going to encode this pattern, and we're going to travel over here to our furnace. We're going to place it in, and now I'm going to go back over here, and I want 32 iron. So we'll start that recipe up, and we'll go back over here, and you can see it's automatically placed the iron inside the furnace. And then, as you saw there, once the recipe was finished, I had the cable pull out and put it back into the pattern provider, which means it'll go back into the ME system automatically, so you don't have to worry about running a cable all the way across your base to an interface. Now let's look at channels and how channels work, because this is the bit that seems to confuse people a lot. So how a channel works is it has a starting point, which is our ME controller, or in that case, an energy acceptor. I've got a smart cable here, which is 8 channels. So that means I can have 8 devices along this line. Now, if you see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 devices. That means this one will be online, that one, that one, that one, that one. However, what if we added a 9th device? Say we added it onto the end here. So we'll place another device on the end. It'll attempt to boot, and it'll say device missing channels there at the top. Because, and this is what gets a lot of people, is the channels take the shortest path to the destination. So let's look at this one again, for example. This one's online right now. Say I added a device on a shorter path. Added one here, this one will boot, come online, and I'll kick that one off because it's using, Applied Energistics is using the shortest possible route. So it is actually shorter to go here than it is to go all the way over here. And that's how channels work. It's very simple. There are commands to toggle the channel's existence at all. So there's certain commands you can do to make it so that the mod doesn't use channels at all, and you can have everything on one cable if you wanted to. However, I don't particularly like that. I think it ruins the fun. Now, let's see how it works with other mods. I'm going to use Mechanism as an example, because this is all the mods 9, and this is one that got me for a while until I figured this out. So, it's very strange with certain mods, especially Mechanism, because if we tried to, this is a metallurgic infuser, if we tried to encode, let's say I tried to encode infused alloy from Mechanism, what it would do is it would, in the pattern encoding terminal, if you go like that, and you try to encode it, it'll just encode it as redstone. But like redstone as in the Mechanism redstone, not the actual item redstone. So what you do, go like that, and we encode that pattern. Now we go back over here, and that's why this buffer chest is important, because mods are usually very good at figuring out what things go where. So I'll use the Mechanism for example. So we want our infusion to come through the top. So we'll go extra here for our items, and then infuse type input. Now I want to go back, also input, and our front output. So the pattern provider will place 1 iron and 1 redstone in this chest. So what will happen is Applied Energistics will place the iron and redstone in here, it'll automatically pull the redstone through here, iron through here, and output into there. I hope that made some degree of sense. If you have any further questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. And if you want a follow-up video, I will make sure to get on making that. Thank you very much for watching. This is the Dumb Shits Guide to Applied Energistics.